Enemy of the state.
An enemy of the state.
Enemy of the state.
Dank Pod-Stash.
You're listening to Enemy of the State's Dank Pod-Stash. Check out thedankpodstash.com to find every episode of the Dank Pod-Stash, links to support the show via our BitBacker and Patreon, Dank Pod-Stash merchandise, and much more. If you'd like to advertise on the Dank Pod-Stash, email us at dankpodstash@gmail.com. Oh shit, you have made it to episode 53 of Enemy of the State's Dank Pod-Stash. I'm your host, non-voting Nick, and before we jump into the show, we have a special offer for our listeners from friend of the show, author and content creator Shane Radliff of Liberty Under Attack Publications. Take 10% off your order at libertyunderattack.com using coupon code DANK10. And what are you taking 10% off of? You're taking 10% off of books focusing on self-liberation, freedom strategies, solutions, and more. His current books are #Agora, Second Realm Book on Strategy, Ben Stone's Sedition, Subversion, and Sabotage, and Shane's very own Vanu, A Strategy for Self-Liberation. A lot of strategies in there, and you should know them. They also offer assistance to new authors throughout the publishing process, including editing, proofreading, formatting for Kindle and paperback, and full-service audiobook production. That's Liberty Under Attack Publications. Share your story, find your freedom. Also got to shout out Bad Moon Hemp. I don't know if you can hear this. Can you hear that? That's my beard. I'm touching my wonderful, luxurious beard, and it's all thanks to Bad Moon Hemp. And it's your one-stop shop for all your handmade hemp needs. I use their beard oil and beard balm. You got to go to badmoonhemp.wordpress.com to check it out. They got soap, all kinds of other stuff. Now let's jump in with one of my favorite people, Jason Boothe, episode 53 of the Dank Pod-Stash. Here we go. Jason Boothe is back, and you should be watching so you can see his sweet patch on his microphone. He changes them semi-regularly, I think, and this one's dope.
It's not my favorite, but I like this one.
Which one's your favorite?
You can't. This one right here, it says armed abolitionist.
Oh, yeah.
In black and gold, and it's got the crossed rifles.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Hell yeah.
Got the high capacity magazine on it.
Yeah. Illegal in California. Probably other places now too, huh?
Colorado, I think you can only have a 15. New York, of course, and then like Massachusetts, Connecticut, those blue states.
Lame.
Big time.
I just went and dumped some 30-round mags the other weekend. Had a glorious time. It had been a while.
Yeah, we had a bit of a gold rush like a month and a half ago, where the appeals court threw out the standard capacity magazine ban here in California.
Oh.
And there was like a 4-day gold rush where people were buying, getting mail order.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something like, what did they say, like 22,000 magazines
Whoa.
imported into California in that 4 days.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And then did they reban them or what?
Well, the court put a hold on their appeal on
okay.
their ruling. So, we can't import them now, but we can possess them. But the 10-round magazine limit is still in effect. So we can have a standard capacity magazine, but we can only have 10 rounds in it.
That's ridiculous.
I'm sorry, we can only have 9 rounds in it. 9 rounds and then 1 in the chamber.
Oh, okay.
So we have a 10 round capacity. Yeah.
What if you just do three?
You can have a drum.
Just do 3 different types of rounds in the 30-round magazine. Can that be a loophole?
No. You know what's really fucked in California is if you have 11 rounds, like you can have 1 in the chamber and then 11 in the magazine.
Mm-hmm.
That's a felony, right? But you can conceal carry without a permit, and it's a class C misdemeanor.
Oh shit! I didn't know that. That's fucking crazy.
Which is like kind of ass backwards.
Yeah.
I want to say, but it's not.
Well, you're
It's
expecting
California logic.
Yeah, you're expecting gun laws to make sense there, man. That's your first mistake. I don't.
I can shit on the street. I can shit on the street, and I can go to a halfway house and shoot up heroin, but I can't carry a firearm for protection.
If you had the firearm freedoms, it would be the future that libertarians want. Shit on the street, shoot up heroin at a halfway house, and carry all the guns you want.
dirt cheap cannabis too.
That's right. Now, if that was ever an argument for the LP, so if you were arguing for the LP, there's got to be shit involved somewhere. So that's the only way I'll believe it.
That's it's not violating anybody's rights.
Well,
it doesn't violate the NAP.
Speaking, well, I don't understand. What I don't understand is the gun laws that don't allow you to carry with the magazine in, like in the car, or if you're, I don't know, maybe even if you're walking. I know some places can't have it in the car with all the pieces together. They have to be like in separate locations, closed off from each other. It's like, what the fuck's the point of that? You want me to field strip my gun to travel, and if I get into anything, better hope I can put it together quick enough.
Yeah, I can carry, I can have my pistol in the cab, but then the ammo has to be like in the trunk.
Yeah, right.
Or I can have both the ammo and the gun in the trunk, but it can't be loaded, and they have to be in separate compartments.
Right.
Does that make sense? It has to be in like separate containers.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So what if you have a truck?
Like California. SOL.
Wow. No guns
SOL.
and
You
trucks.
got to put the ammo in the back. What it is like it's some like really ridiculous like arbitrary rule where you can't be able to like grab and load the firearm in a certain little time frame. I think it's like 60 seconds or something like that.
In the time it takes a cop to walk up to your window.
Yeah, pretty much.
I guarantee that's it. Dirty fuckers.
I'm pretty sure it's part of the what they call the cooling off period. Like California has a 10-day waiting period, right? The NICS check takes the same amount of time as anywhere else, 25, 35 minutes. But then we have a 10-day hold, and your firearm purchase can be canceled anytime during that hold. So we do the NICS check, and then we have 10 days before we can get the firearm. And in California, they call that a cooling off period,
right?
Because they were afraid of people getting angry, buying a gun, and going and shooting people.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
So, yeah, I think the storage law is part of that.
That's weird.
Like they want people to have time to calm down before, I don't know.
They need to calm down. They need to get the fuck out of here with that shit. I need to share that meme again. I like that meme where it has all the different colors on the different states for the different gun laws that are applicable, and then like concealed carry, I guess. And then the next one is just all gray, and states where you can concealed carry if you're not a little bitch.
There are a lot of people that I know that do concealed carry without permits, because again, it's if you get busted, it's a fine. Right? It's a Class B misdemeanor, so you're not a felon, so you still have your gun rights.
Right.
Right. And California is a may issue state, which means you have to show quote good cause. And in my county, which is just over 1 million people, Contra Costa County, just over 1 million people. It's like 1,018,000 or something like that. The sheriff last year handed out like 18 carry permits.
Oh shit.
Out of 1 million people, and a lot of those people were contributors to the sheriff's campaigns, or they were quote prominent business members.
Right. Imagine that. Yeah, that's nothing shady going on there.
Money under the table.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, pay to play. It's like, I mean, that's everywhere. That's everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so this reminds me, I can't remember. I think I was talking with Shane Radliff about this when he was on the show the other day. I was thinking about, like, what the fuck are we going to do? I think I had watched the Dave Smith debate Nicholas Sarwark from the LP, and I was like, well, fuck. They're talking about visibility for... I know, it was hilarious. It was fucking hilarious, but...
I put it off and put it off and put it off, and I finally listened to it 4 or 5 days ago. I found it on Stitcher and listened to it, and Dave wrecked him.
Oh yeah, big time.
Dave absolutely wrecked him.
Yep,
it was beautiful.
It was. It's just it had me thinking. It's like, well, shit. This is a centralized platform to get ideas out there. Like what are anarchists who are not interested in working with the LP going to do? And that'd been bugging me for like a week after I watched it. And I talked about it with Shane, and he had good answers. If you want to hear that, find the episode with Shane Radliff, the Dank Pod-Stash, shameless self-promotion. But I can't remember who I was talking to the other day or if it was something I was reading. But I mean, the answer is pretty obvious. You just make better things, make better products to show people, and better communities, and live that way. I think that's seeing it happen versus seeing a political platform where people are talking about the ideas that you're interested in. I think is more convincing by far.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's actions speak louder than words. And there are a lot of action out there, but they're so demonized by the controlling media and by those in power, because they do undermine the power, and they do undermine the collectiveness. But like that's the whole point of like the building the second realm. The second realm strategy. Shane put it out on LUA Publications on Amazon. You can find it on anarplex.net, ANARPLEX.net. You get for a digital copy of that. And the entire idea behind that is to create anarcho or black market agorist infrastructure, not publicly, like out in the servile society, but underground. Like there's stories about, or there's examples, like if a person were to own like a mechanic's garage, but underground, like a lot of these places, especially out west here, they have like underground storage facilities. Well, if you were to turn those underground storage facilities into, say, apartments, right, and people can rent those apartments, or like you can even like Airbnb style rent these apartments for people that are on the run from no victim warrants or no victim charges, in exchange for barter or for work or for cryptocurrency or even for fiat currencies, and do that sort of thing. And there's a whole bunch of other services, like with LUA Publications, with Shane putting out people's writings, and he has the website Vaunted Podcast where he does that too. He doesn't have a business license. Like, this is just him doing it. He didn't ask the government's permission. He fucking did it. And there's a lot of agorist businesses out there with like everything from gardening, from kid or babysitting and auto repairs and home repairs, and Jamie Baconic with the computers, and like there's people out there actually doing it.
Oh yeah.
They're just how they're doing it, and without government permission. It's so demonized by the media that it's hard to get it out there and put a positive public spin on it.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's the thing too. I think I understand the importance of keeping it kind of underground, so you're not getting fucked over, so you're not getting popped. But I think we need to make a lot more visible moves too.
there has to be, absolutely has to be visible moves, and to go toward Danilo with this one, you have to sacrifice. There has to be a pawn sacrificed, right? Somebody has to be first, right? Like Ross Ulbricht. Ross Ulbricht was first, and he got what, 200 years, you know. And there's like the guys after him, Pirate Bay 2. The top sellers on Pirate Bay and Pirate Bay 2, they got like 5 and 7 years or 10 years, and like one guy got like probation, but Ross was first and he got 200 years, you know. Right. And it didn't stop the tour sales, it didn't stop the black market sales, but well, you know, same with Cody Wilson, someone had to be first.
Yeah. But and there needs to be another step to that too. There needs to be the fighting back, the defense of the people who are getting fucked over. Like, and I don't ever hear about this shit until it's already gone down for the most part, and I never hear a call for, hey, we need people here to keep the cops out of this building from arresting this dude. I mean, That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to see. I know if they ever come for me, I'm going to be putting the call out. You know.
He's a bit of a status, but I like to use the example of Cliven Bundy in this situation. I have some strong opinions on that one, but Cliven Bundy, for the background, like he was grazing cattle on the desert, literally the desert, like the cattle were eating fucking sagebrush and whatnot. Right. Hard place, really, really hard place to actually run livestock, and they had to make a lot of improvements through irrigation and water containers and dug some ponds and whatnot. And he had the state of Nevada's permission, right? But technically, according to the law, you know, fuck the law, but according to the law, the land that he ran them on was under the control of the Bureau of Land Management, right? Federal agency, which, by the way, control or claims ownership over like 82% of the state of Nevada.
A lot of the West.
And the BLM stepped, like 58% of the West or something like that. But yeah, like 82% of Nevada, and BLM steps in like, oh, well, you owe us grazing permits and blah, 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 blah. And like he said, you know, I'm not going to pay it because it's not your land. It's state of Nevada. Constitution, there's constitutional argument there about forced ports in 10 square miles, you know, and all that stuff. But
right.
BLM stepped in there, started pointing guns and like, okay, we're taking their cows, right? Well, Cliven, after fighting for a couple weeks with the BLM, like physically on the land, put out the call for the militia, and like 200 something militiamen showed up, and then there was like a big standoff with people up on the freeway overpasses with rifles pointing at the BLM, and there was a bunch of people on horseback, and the BLM backed off. And there's an argument to be made there. They backed off because of the guns, blah, 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 because people stood up. I believe that they backed off because it would have been bad PR to go forward, right, you know, to shoot the Cowboys. But like as you said, you don't really hear about these things from the anarchist perspective. You don't hear anarchists putting out the call when they're being fucked with, because, well, it's hard for people to ask for help. But number two, like anarchists are they try to be individualists, right? I'm just going to do my thing, fuck the government, blah, 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 blah. Well, when the government comes to crack down on you, how many of them actually stand up and fight back?
Right.
And it's a hard thing to fight back to.
Yeah.
To like when you see the government, when they come in the MRAP and they're all dressed in black and they're all carrying M4s and they're all looking like fucking stormtroopers and there's 20 of them deep, it's hard to pick up that rifle. You know, it's a losing proposition, but
well, that's why
I
agree with everyone, and I'd say myself, we need to, and you too, the communities that we're always talking about. You know, we're all so spread out, and I know some people in their own areas have meetups, but it'd be a whole lot cooler if everybody was a lot closer, and a lot safer if everybody was a lot closer.
Yeah, and this is an issue that goes back. Oh God, I want to say it's I think Erwin Strauss, How to Start Your Own Country. I think that was in like the late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is from that book, or it might be from Hakeem's book. I don't remember which one it is, but it talks about like if you're gonna play games with nation states, which the United States is a nation state, if you're gonna assert your freedom in the face of a nation state, you have to be willing, capable, and able to defend yourself. If you're not willing to physically defend yourself, if you don't have the capability to physically defend yourself, well, then you exist at that government's permission. Right. And a lot of anarchists, if you really get down to the philosophy of it, they'll argue against, nuclear weapons, because of the victims and all that good stuff. But like, if you're trying to assert your freedom, if you're trying to be free, if you're trying to build anarchotopia, if you're trying to have your own little piece of the world and claim it as yours, and the dirt underneath your feet belongs to you, you have to be willing to defend yourself,
right?
Even up to the point of using things like that.
Yeah, it has to be a parody.
It's one of those discussions that anarchists aren't willing, or a lot of anarchists aren't willing to have. They're scared to have it, and a lot of them are scared to have that conversation.
Well, yeah,
and it's something that we've talked about. Shannon and I have talked about. We talked about with Ben Stone during the Second Realm series, and we talked about it with Andrew Goff and Paul Gordon. Yeah, I mean, if you're not willing and able to defend yourself, you exist. You're doing what you're doing at the permission of the state.
Absolutely. And
you're just a slave still.
I totally understand that a lot of people are just kind of happy holding these ideals and living them to the extent to that they can still be comfortable. But like you're saying, it's still at the permission of the government at that point. And what I don't understand is, because I understand the seeking of comfort is what I'm saying. What I don't understand is why the number one goal is not to get to the point where you can defend yourself with other people and really assert and take your freedom. I don't understand. I don't understand why people would rather, work towards the next house in the city or new car or whatever versus buying land with like-minded people out somewhere, even if it's buying a city block or something. It's anything like that.
Well, you got to remember that you as an individual, your mind as an individual, my mind as an individual, you and I won't agree 100% on everything. We have different degrees of, for lack of a better term, wokeness, quote unquote. I did my air quotes for you guys listening. Like you and I have a different mindset and a different philosophy, and we think differently than most of America, most of the world, most of the statists, and each of those statists again thinks differently. It's why it's the same reason I don't get angry at people when they advocate for statism. It's because they don't have the same education, they don't have the same experience, they haven't had the same conversations that I have. Right? Most anarchists, I would argue, aren't actually anarchists. They're still statists, but they traded political parties for economic systems.
Yeah,
they traded political parties for the great man theory, for the great man boogeyman theory. So it's really, really hard to find people that genuinely understand the philosophy of anarchism and voluntarism and true individualism. And it's even harder to find those qualities in someone that also has the capacity and willingness to physically be an anarchist. Because you can be philosophical all day long, but again, as we said earlier, actions speak louder than words. You can shout anarchism from the rooftops, but it doesn't make it happen without you physically doing it.
Right. Well, and I know a lot of people aren't interested in buying land or property or whatever altogether and living with a bunch of people on the same property, but there's still always the option of buying yours as far away as you can from government influence. You'll have it lessened, but it's still, like you're saying, you're still doing it by their permission. If they could come on there because they don't like what you're doing and beat you, But
yeah,
and there's
if you're still paying taxes on the land, well, yeah, you're still. There's an argument to be made there for limiting your exposure to coercion, right? Paying taxes, having that driver's license, registering that vehicle. There's an argument to be made there that those things are risk versus reward.
Right.
And the risk of not doing those things may or may not be greater than may not be worth the reward.
Sure.
Right. If you don't have that driver's license, if you don't register that vehicle, every vehicle stopped by the police is a potential death sentence.
Yes.
Like in reality, every interaction with the police is a potential death sentence. Like,
absolutely.
Police killed more people last year than died in war. And Afghanistan and Iraq and other U.S. foreign interventions. But so having that driver's license, having that registered vehicle, paying those taxes, risk versus reward. Like how much freedom are you physically willing to fight for? And that goes back to that willingness and capability of adamantly and effectively and efficiently defending yourself.
Right. And you have to take into consideration tactics as well, because it's not like you can drop everything all at once. Like you're saying, throw away the driver's license, don't register the vehicle again once it lapses and all that, and stop paying taxes, because then you're just putting a massive target on yourself. I think I'm not a fan of gradualism all the time, but one of the times that I'm a fan of it is in your personal search for that freedom. I think you can lessen the taxes you pay and get yourself to the point where you don't need that license, don't need all that stuff, to where you get down to almost nothing. Just wanted to put that out there for people listening. You're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Just drop it all at once? No, because there's tactics. The best tactics is not to go out and just start shooting cops, or if you get pulled over for speeding, just start shooting. It's, I don't know, there's tactics, and there's a gradual progression at least in an individual's life, I think.
Yeah, if you could buy freedom off Amazon for $19.95, everybody would be.
Yep.
Right? But that's not the way it works, right? There's no follow these 4 steps, there's no magic words that you can say in court. There's no piece of paper that you can possess that makes you free. Not when the government exists, not when people openly defend statism and defend the coercion forced on other people. And there's no one strategy that is going to get you free, or one strategy that is going to lessen the coercion that you're exposed to.
Right.
And I recognize the words that you're saying, and I know you talked to Shane, so I know you're thinking Vonu. But like Vonu and the Second Realm and sedition, subversion, and sabotage, and just ethical enclaves and intentional communities and mutual assistance groups and urban squatting and just there's so many ideas. Like the number of ideas on how to limit your coercion or how to grasp just this little bit of freedom. It's even more numerical than the hyphens that people create around anarchism.
Right.
And there's a lot of fucking hyphens.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think it's important to keep those bridges built with people who are against the state, no matter what their hyphen or whether they're not hyphenated or whatever strategy they're taking is. Because like you're saying, it is so diverse in the ways to it and the way people think about it. And there's just, there's way too much fucking infighting and shit slinging, when there should be a lot more uniting. Because how the hell else are you going to stand up to the world's largest military, You know, how the hell is that going to happen unless you're there with people who believe the same things as you?
See, now you're going to get me started to start talking about asymmetrical warfare.
Let's do it.
The U.S. Okay, the U.S. government, the U.S. military, the largest military in the history of the world, right? What was the last military bill? Like $755 billion or something like that.
Sure, sounds good.
Right? We got there's like 140 bases and 120 countries. The U.S. military has never defeated a guerrilla force.
Sure. And, you know, I know this, and I'm agreeing with this. What I'm saying is they'll defeat me. But if I don't have you and me, because it wasn't just one guy in the Viet Cong.
Nope. I agree. It's
That's what I'm saying.
It's hurting cats.
It is hurting cats. And I'm starting to think that Boogaloo might be the only answer, because then you have a chance in the absence of a really together, you know, state. You have a chance to cut out your swath of freedom.
You know, and that's one of those things that I've as an anarchist, as a philosophical anarchist, it's really hard for me to say this, but I've thought a lot about the big igloo and civil war and economic collapse and all these other things. And like, if it really came down to it, and there was some sort of civil war, and the red side won, the constitutional side won, like living under a constitution, like absolute under the constitution, like I would still have some things to complain about, but I would be a hell of a lot more free than I am now.
Right.
So like the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in that sort of situation, I would align with them and then just like go try to do my own thing.
Right.
Does that make
that makes perfect sense. I've had the exact same thought, and it's the question.
And you're in the right area for it too, with up there in the Redoubt.
Yeah. That's why I moved up here. You need to get your ass out of California, man.
Oh,
imagine if we could be doing this show sitting in the same studio.
Talking.
Yep.
loading magazines while we're talking.
Yep. And just step out back and go shooting when we're done. Allegedly. We'd have to recover them from the boating accident, of course.
You see that really good meme the other yesterday? I think I posted it. It's Ariel from Little Mermaid, and she's like looking at a cave wall, and there's like AKs and ARs and pistols and a 50 Barrett. She's like, I got this and this and this and that and this, and there's a high point, and I'm just like, stop fucking losing guns in a boating accident. Yeah. You're turning Ariel.
We'll have to call on the merfolk for backup.
Yeah, where's Jason Momoa?
Hell yeah. Well, okay, so another thing, new topic. The
actually that would be a bad strategy, because most blue strongholds are coastal cities.
There you go. I'm just
putting that out there.
They'd have to make some sort of deal so they'd have legs so they could do a land raid. But the weekly hotness among anarchists and among a lot of other people, I think, is the whole Amber Geiger, how do you say it, Botham Jean murder trial, which turned into a manslaughter conviction?
I think it was the judge said the jury could consider manslaughter, and then he laid out what manslaughter is. Mm-hmm. And I think they actually found her guilty of murder.
Oh, how the fuck did she only end up with 10 years?
I don't know. Maybe it's the degree of murder or something like that. But like the prosecutor wanted like life. The prosecution wanted a life sentence, and somehow she only got 10. And then she got a hug from the judge.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
and,
Yeah,
and a hug from the guy's brother.
Okay, so
which
here,
I can understand
this
the
is
hug
perfect.
from the guy's brother.
Exactly. This is exactly what I want to talk about. So, under the philosophy of, let's say, agorism, and I'm sure there's others, but I know that Konkin was more into a restitution-based justice system rather than punishment, right? So, if the family wants to forgive and forget, then that should be their right to let that happen, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm having a problem with so many people that I'm seeing that I know saying, well, nah, fuck that. She should get longer. The state should kill her. Even if they're not saying outright the state, they're saying in fewer words that the state should have more power to imprison and or kill somebody.
No, see, I think this is one of those issues where emotions take place before logic, right? And anarchism is supposed to be a logic based philosophy, right?
Right.
When you have things like this and the emotions come into play, and people saying, "Oh, she should have got 25 years. They should have beat her. They should have killed her." Blah blah blah. Right? Well, there's a difference between justice and revenge, right? They're not the same thing, and
Right.
a lot of people are talking about the revenge aspect of it and not the justice aspect of it. Both of Gene's family, they own the justice side of it, right? I mean, he was their kin. They were the ones that were wronged. They're the ones that should be able to dictate justice. All these other people talking about 25 years, the state should kill her, blah, all these other things, hard labor. That's revenge, right? That they want that person to suffer for what they did.
Sure.
Well, that's not necessarily justice. That's revenge.
Well,
Justice is restitution.
Not only is it not justice, it's none of their fucking business, because like we're saying, it's the next, in the case of a murder, it's the next of kin. In the case of anything outside of a murder, it's up to the victim to decide what their restitution is.
I agree.
And then the other side of this is, well, people say, if people ask for the state, then let them have the state, fucking raw, no lube. But that's still not productive. I can understand. So I was talking in depth about this with Daniel Johnson, and we went off on two tangents. We were arguing, and we were talking about different things. It turns out, what he was bringing up was that it's a good lesson for people who want the violence of the state in whatever form they want it, taxes, police, military, whatever, when that gets turned on them. Not necessarily we want that to happen to them as a form of punishment, but you experience the shit end of the stick from the state, then you're gonna learn today. That was his idea, and I can agree with that. What I don't want is to see the state getting more power to punish more people and put more people in prison, whether it's for profit or state run or whatever. So I think this is a perfect opportunity for advocacy for restitution rather than revenge or state justice. I think that's a good thing to start getting out there, which is why I wanted to talk about it on the show today, because I think that's interesting.
Well, I think another one of the aspects that people are not ignoring, but are forgetting to really take into account is that she was part of the state, right? She was a police officer. She had special training. She had quote enhanced training, right? High end training. Like she was a weapon of the state, and you want the state to punish one of its own?
Yeah, what are you fucking thinking?
Really? Like,
because that's
the fox hurt the chicken, so we're gonna make the fox hurt the other fox.
Right.
Right. I mean, come on now. Like, well, as it is now, right? Sentence to 10 years, right? In state prison. So she's eligible for parole, right? Well, she's gonna do half because of overcrowding. She'll have another little piece taken off for time served, plus whatever else. So out of a 10-year sentence, she might do 3 years. Yep. Three, maybe 4 years total. Right. And then she's going to be back on the street. Like, where's the justice to the family?
Sure.
Where's the restitution to the family? I'm not talking monetary restitution, but where's their justice? Again, where's their justice?
Right.
There's no justice to the family.
No.
Right. I mean, there's a like, we can go into whole vigilante justice and all that good stuff, but as you said, it's really up to the family as to what happens to her. They were the ones that were harmed.
Well, and it sounds like what they want, because the brother said that he would rather just forgive and wish he didn't have to do any time in jail, just learn a lesson from it and be on our way. And I know his mother asked for better training for the department and stuff like that. And I think if that's what they ask for, then that's what they should get. Now, along with that, they're going to get police still on the fucking streets, so that could happen again. And they're not asking that from an anarchist perspective, is another thing people need to realize. And then a thing that people are bringing up is the guy that got 45 years for shooting the police dog, and the woman who got 20 years for firing off warning shots. In comparison to this, as if it's a fair comparison. It's not a fucking fair comparison. It's the state doing what the state does and taking care of its own and fucking over everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. The alternative to vigilante justice is the perverted version of justice that the state supplies, and we know what kind of distorted justice that is and what kind of sick and twisted society it produces. That is Ben Stone's Sedition, Subversion, Sabotage Field Manual #1. And again, those other people, the individuals, like the lady in Oklahoma, like 12 years ago, the article said she got 10 or 12 years for selling $31 worth of cannabis.
Right.
That was another one that was compared to. There was another guy in Denver that got 10 years for growing cannabis, like 77 years old. The guy who used a cane got 10 years for growing cannabis. Again, those people weren't cops.
Right.
Number one, those people weren't cops. If you take the badge out of this situation, if you take her occupation out of this situation, number one, you never see it on the news. Number two, most anarchists would have an entirely different perspective. But because she has a badge, because she's a tool of the state, there's a lot of angry emotions involved there, and a lot of people calling for revenge instead of actual justice.
It's a missed opportunity to show, because I've seen there's good memes coming out, right, comparing her with her picture and her sentence versus the guy I just mentioned, 45 years for shooting the police dog, etc. And it's a good opportunity missed to point out the obvious flaws, for lack of a better term. It's a very light way of putting it, with the state and with state justice, and then also to guide people into the idea of restitution. I think so asking for the state to do more is pretty much, until the state's gone, she should get as much time as she can, or as much punishment as she can, is saying the exact same thing as, until the welfare state's gone, we got to keep paying for those borders. It's not bringing down any part of the state. It's instead building it up and either leaving it with power or giving it more power.
Yeah, advocating for the state in any degree, I believe, is counter to anarchist philosophy. I mean, I may be wrong on that, but anarchist, anti-state, advocating for the state to punish someone, that's oil and water. Those two don't jive. So,
right.
I believe this is a perfect opportunity, absolute perfect opportunity to actually put out there the ideals of voluntarism and restitution and private courts. What justice actually means, and who should decide the punishments for other people, and for the people that are wronged, and they're missing it, right? Because it's become cool to be angry, and it's become cool to be dank. I love dank memes as much as the next person, but well, there's a time and a place for these sort of things, and there's a time and a place for actual philosophical conversations, and this is a perfect opportunity for philosophical conversation.
Yep. Yeah. I don't see why this is any different than the people who campaigned for jury nullification. Juror nullification. This is a thing that could be campaigned for is restitution. The only difference is juror nullification goes, through the legal channels, so they're not going to buck it. The state's not going to buck it when people are advocating for it. Whereas if people had a campaign advocating for restitution, be like, fuck going to the cops or fuck going to the court. Why don't you, the victim, and we'll go nab this guy who did whatever he did to you. Why don't we work this out outside of this? Then you're going to get fucked over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, around here they do that sort of thing when we call it street justice.
Yeah, right.
And there's different groups. We'll call them different groups. There's different groups in my neighborhood. And they don't always get along, and there are incidences in which the groups clash. And a lot of three of these groups are, we'll call them minor league teams for the major groups.
Mm-hmm.
And the major groups will step in and be like, look, you guys are fucking up business, you're fucking up this, you're fucking up that, you're drawing too much attention, you're going to handle it. And occasionally there will be a vigilante justice, for lack of a better term. There'll be a vigilante justice act on an individual and that is causing the issues, and then everything will calm down. And the police, they do their little thing and then they go away, right? Because there's no more issues in the neighborhood. And that's how it should be with anarchists. I'm not saying anarchists need to go out and fucking shoot people, but anarchists need to learn how to actually converse and talk to each other and have these sort of conversations and learn how to deal with issues outside of the state.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They need to again, going to the patch, you can't delegate thinking. People need to actually start thinking for themselves and not parroting, not repeating talking points, not, well, Rothbard said, I don't care what Rothbard said 40 years ago. I want to know what you think right now.
Yep.
Right? Tell me, what do you think?
Yeah.
And then we can have that conversation.
Well, and speaking of street justice, did you also see that Botham Jean's neighbor who testified got gunned down in a supposed drive-by shooting?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Not a drive-by shooting.
Oh, not a drive-by.
Not a drive-by shooting. No, he was. First, this was not at the same apartment complex.
Oh shit!
Right, the guy moved after Botham was killed. Botham was killed like last September or whatever it was. So this guy moved. This was like 5 miles away. So yeah, he was climbing out of his vehicle when he was shot at close range in the mouth and in the chest.
Oh, that's a little symbolic.
And then he died at the hospital. Yeah, like an article comes out about the Geiger defense launching an appeal or launching investigation into appeal, and then like the main witness gets killed.
Yeah.
I mean,
and see, that's what we're saying though right now. That's gang justice if I've ever heard of it from the state side. I'll say it. I don't give a fuck if people think I'm a crazy conspiracy theorist.
The police are absolutely a fucking gang.
Well, that, and I think that they did that. It's a conspiracy, but I think that they did that. And I'm not, like you said, not advocating for anyone to go out and shoot police, but they can do it undetected. Other people can too.
Not only could they do it undetected, but they control the investigation.
Mm-hmm.
When the police kill people, who you call to investigate?
Yep.
The police. The foxes investigated the foxes and found out that they did nothing wrong to the chickens. I mean, come on now.
This is why I'm saying Boogaloo might be the only thing, man. It's the only big move that's big enough. It's the only thing big enough to destabilize.
I think it's going to happen one way or another, but I think it's going to be accompanied with the collapse.
Mm-hmm.
I think the collapse is going to be the one that's kicked off the economic collapse, which is going to happen. Like, we've been in a soft collapse for a number of years. Mm-hmm. There's an article yesterday or a couple days ago about the New York Fed Reserve pumping like $55 billion a month to local banks,
God
right?
Damn.
And you know what that means?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll send you that article afterwards.
Yeah, for sure. I'll put that in the show notes.
You know, that's what they're trying to prop things up. They're trying to keep things from collapsing. But when that happens,
that's
and
the
government,
man.
the government's
what's
it's a lot. It's a lot of money.
What's the number for hyperinflation?
And it's not even money. It's just digital ones and zeros.
Sure.
So it's not even like actual physical currency.
What do you know what the number like when we hit hyperinflation is? When it technically becomes hyperinflation?
Oh, I have no.
I don't fucking either.
I have no idea.
Because that billion, what you say, $50 billion a month for the banks? That's fucking crazy.
I'm trying to find the article right now. I think I have it on.
Sorry, dead air. No dead air.
Sorry. There's another article I read yesterday about the interest payments on the national debt are greater than what the government spends on children.
I did see that, yeah.
Which is just a fantastic thing to tell people.
Well, I don't know that there's necessarily, I'm looking at this, there's not necessarily a number for hyperinflation. You know, it's just the idea of what hyperinflation is. So pumping $50 billion a month into the banks. Yeah, I'm excited to read that article. Everybody should check out the show notes and read that article because I think it was Sterling Reese who asked the other day, if you knew that hyperinflation was going to hit in a month, what would you do? That's a fucking good question to think about. And if you're not ready to make the moves that you would want to do in 1 month, then you need to start getting yourself ready. Because I'm not, and I need
continue to offer up to 70. Okay. Friday's announcement, the New York Fed said it will continue to offer up to $75 billion a day in repurchase agreements, exchanging secure assets for cash for very short periods of time, as well up to 14-day repo operations twice a week of at least $35 billion.
Wow.
So they're $75 billion a day in buying at the Federal Reserve is spending $75 billion a day purchasing credit. It's just purchasing credit from banks and whatnot, as well as a 14-day repo operations where people, so 30. It's a lot of fucking money.
That is. Well, I guess we need to start looking for big names or big accounts starting to dump the dollar. I know that's happening in different places, but you need to look for it to start becoming more rapid and more frequent.
And then there was, let's see, where was the other article? The steel industry, which one of the ones that Trump promised to, the steel industry is in a recession.
Sure.
That's just the start of it. Yeah. Let's see. Manufacturing plunged deeper into recession in September with a key gauge of factory activity dropping to its lowest level since the global financial crisis in 2009.
Damn. Well, if that's not signs of the collapse, I don't know what is. But like we say, I'm sure you say it all the time, and I say it all the time. It's good to be prepared and start getting that way, people.
Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I was thinking about doing.
I am not
a series for.
I'm not one to stand in bread.
No, fuck no. I was thinking about doing a series for the Patreon. I think in conjunction with the Counter Economist on learning about cryptocurrency. I've had that kind of going in and out of my head for a while, and then I was going to follow that up with a series on preparedness, on prepping. I think I might jump the prepping to the front and wait on the crypto. I think it's a lot more interesting to me than crypto is, and I think I have more knowledge on that. But that's something we'll have to get on and talk about again too.
Yeah, I think last time we talked about prepping a little bit, and one of the books that I mentioned was the 299 Days series.
Yes.
right? With Glenn Tate. Glenn Tate has a new show with him and his wife Shelly do it, and it's prepping 2.0. Like 1.0 is buying food and water, right, and having some guns in the house. Prepping 2.0 is taking that to the next level with gardening and animals and freeze dryers and dehydrators. But prepping 2.0, absolutely fantastic podcast.
Nice.
Absolutely. They just had a guy on last week talking about EMPs, and it just blew me away.
Hell yeah. Definitely going to check that out. Fucking A. Well, dude, on that note of be prepared, that's about an hour. I can't remember. Have I asked you?
That was fast.
I know, right? That was fun. Have I asked you? I've been doing a little thing for the Patreon after hours video. I can't remember if I asked you if you had the intention of the whole world on you, what you would tell people. I don't know if I've asked you that or not.
Oh man, what would I tell people if I had the entire world's attention on me?
I haven't asked you. All right, so we're gonna cut the show off right here. And if you want to hear Jason's answer to that, you got to go to patreon.com/thedankpodstash and sign up for the after hours content, because we're gonna talk about that, and then I'm gonna cut them all together for episode 100, which might be a Patreon exclusive only. All the answers from all the guests that have ever been on. But dude, thanks for coming on. Stick around for a second. We'll do that Patreon after hours.
That would be cool.
Hell yeah.
Hey, no problem.
Awesome. All right, guys. Remember, total freedom, no exceptions.
Zombie presence, what anarchy! Zombie presence!